So I get approached by agents every day looking to build their business and grow as to how I can help them with coaching. I don't do coaching real estate agents just because I'm busy running my own business. But there's certain fundamentals I've learned in my business along the way. And one of the people who's been on the same path, I think, for a good part of my career, really excited to share with you guys today, is Mitzi Zeri. She's a coach and has been with some of the top companies in the business. Mitzi, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Bill. I appreciate it.
So give me a little background about your career. How did you end up being a coaching when you were a little girl playing with Barbies? Were you the Barbie real estate coach, or how'd that work out?
No, I never played with dolls. I climbed trees instead.
Oh wow. Wow. Okay.
No, no, I live in Albuquerque. I'm not quite a native here. I've been here since I was two, but I've been in the business a little over 31 years. This is my second career. And of those 31 years, I've been coaching and training off and on for about 20 of them. In the last 8 years, I was part of Tom Ferry International, and I left Tom not too long ago and opened up my own coaching company, and that's sort of where we are today. So I bring my knowledge to my clients, and I look at things a little differently in the way Tom does. And so that's, I felt we're better just to split and go on a different path. And, I look at clients, I've got them anywhere from brand new clients all the way up to seasoned agents. Everybody's facing the same situation right now. This market is nuts. What do I do? How do I change it? What worked last year doesn't work this year. And so my goal is to help you get from where you are today to where you want to be down the road, whether it's, we break it down into, say, between now and 6 months from now, a year from now. What is your long-term goal? What do you anticipate happening between now and there? And then we put a plan together and go over it individually, because no two clients of mine are the same, as you can imagine. And we just break it down and say, okay, so what did you do? Do you have a database? Do you know what a database is? Especially with newer agents, they kind of have this deer in the headlight look. And my job is to bring them back into reality and say, okay, this is what you've committed to do. Let's follow through and see how we get it done. And as Gary Keller once said, I know he said this at Mega Camp a few weeks ago. Who said you could leave the basics? Nobody. So now, and as Bill, you and I both know, we've been around in the business a very long period of time, and we do things just like we used to, only differently, and with technology and AI. So how do we merge all of that together into a profitable business for each of my clients? And that's my goal.
It's so true that it's about the basics. I have a coach on my team who I brought on, and I'm able to help, along the way. Just I don't have the systems, procedures in place to really coach somebody and give them a full plan. And she's
Mm-hmm.
done real well. She joined in with a team to kind of accomplish that. And I just saw how much she benefited from having somebody that she could connect to on those things. In addition to me, we work together and have worked on some business. In fact, closing an escrow together, I think today. But it seems to me that you hit on the head. It's the fundamentals. I see so many
Yes.
real estate coaches who sold a lot of business, can't sell anymore, get into coaching, have some magic formula they can't share with you. And it does include the fundamentals. Whereas I think I was one of the first people who hired Tom Ferry. I certainly worked through his father's system for a long time. I'm very familiar with Tom's system as well. I think a lot of it, maybe a different flavor than his father's, where I look at it, but it covers the fundamentals. And I think you said you can't really get around those. So talk a little bit. You mentioned about the importance of a database. You talked about creating a plan. Where's your role come in? Because an agent on their own might know that. I'll make my own database. I'll create my own plan. Where does the coach fit in to help keep somebody on the plan along the way?
Accountability. Without accountability, you may be able to succeed. A lot of people do. But
Mhm.
the accountability of holding you to each goal and moving you forward
Wow.
gets you to the goal a lot faster than out there floundering in the middle of the ocean in your rowboat, when in fact you need a tugboat to pull the rowboat back into shore. And so that's where a coach comes in, is that, and I not only do I do business coaching, I'm there for my client around the clock. Many of my clients have become personal friends, so we have to kind of delineate where we are with some of that. But I see that coaching is not, well, I'm going to speak with you on Monday mornings from 9 to 10, and I'll talk to you next week. That's not what coaching does.
Right.
Coaching is I involve the whole person. You've got soccer for your kids. You've got this. You've got that. You're going through a divorce. You're doing whatever. And so my goal is to say, okay, we've got all of these extra things going on in your life. What do we do? How do we do this? So we put a plan together. We put a schedule together, and I ask for check-in. Did you do these things?
Right.
I have clients that will have that for years have texted me nightly on what they have achieved during that day to keep them on track of their goals.
No, I used to
And
coach. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I used to coach in-house for a company that was a Mike Ferry office. And the broker owner was adamant that I shouldn't be contacting them as a coach outside of the prescribed hourly a week to keep my schedule full. Why just work more hours? Because I just found it more fulfilling to check in during the week. How did that listing appointment go? How did that go? Did this close? Did you get this document? And I think that that's an important piece that's missing is that relationship. And I found that most of the coaching companies are very sterile. To make money as a Tom Ferry coach or a Mike Ferry coach, you're on the phone, 30, 40 hours a week of structured calls. You don't have much time to play with that versus when you're coaching in a company or your own company, you can play along a little bit more. So I think that's something that most people don't realize when they go to these coaching companies. You're probably not going to talk to that person as a general rule at the big companies, other than during your assigned half-hour slot once a week.
That's exactly right. And that was one of the things that when I have been with other coaching companies, I have stepped outside of that role of, okay,
Yeah.
your call is this time and see you next week.
Yeah.
Because I felt that, and I saw the results as well, that when you have a more rounded relationship with that client, you can still be personal, you can still be friends. The personal side does tend to enter into it pretty much. And as you know, it's one of those things that, okay, we're going to talk here, but we've got all these other things that we have to kind of figure out. And oh my gosh, your dog died. All right. Okay, you need to reschedule your call. I understand. That kind of thing doesn't happen very often. I am not rigid. I work with my clients. I bring them along. I have had clients call me up at 6 o'clock in the morning with a crisis. I
Wow.
answer my phone
Wow.
at 6 o'clock in the morning. It
Wow.
has never been abused. They can call me late at night. And I've had clients in all four time zones.
Wow.
So I'm juggling all of that, but I'm available for them. And like I say, it's never been abused by anyone. My clients appreciate it. I'm there to support them. I work through business things. We work through some personal issues because, as you know, sometimes a coaching call is not business. It is a therapy call.
Mm.
And as my husband, who's in the business, also says, we're all therapists and we occasionally sell a house. And
Wow.
that's
Wow.
that's yeah, but think about it. That's really what we're doing because you're dealing with human emotion 100% of the time. But the goal is to get them focused back in on business so they can close that house. They can have additional listings. They can go out and find more clients. They know how to be a professional in this world of craziness that's going on right now.
Well, and I just want to acknowledge that. I'll say for the record, I don't have my phone's not on until I sit at my desk at 8 o'clock. My wife and daughter are upset because they'll call or text me in the morning or during work days. I'm a little different than most agents, and that's why I can't really coach agents as fully as they need because I'm not emotional about it. I really work hard. Again, I'm in a different place in my career. I have a very structured niche. I don't get emotional involved with my clients, and I try not to let it bother me. I was on the phone with a great agent just now she's the buyer's agent on my listing. And she's very upset about something that's happened. And I just said to her, and it's my listing. It's like, well, it's going to work out one way or the other. It always works out. And she's freaking out. I'm like, why are you upset? Because it's not my property. It's a $2 million deal and they're going to sell it. And either they'll make an adjustment, make your buyer happy, or they won't. And we'll figure it out. And that's not satisfying. The agents really need somebody. It can't be me who can be there for them personally. So I would say there's three things you need to be successful when you transform. One is a coach or a mentor, which you fill that role. One is a system of processes. And it sounds like you have those pieces that you've accumulated during your business and over your career that you help customize for people. The third part, I think that is a challenge, I think, sometimes for coaches that are small is the need for community or camaraderie amongst them. Now, I know some coaches plug into the Tom Ferry system or the Mike Ferry system or NAR, CAR, or other. So, how do you help your agents or just encourage them to do it on their own? How do you help agents, in addition to all that, create a sense of community or camaraderie to help them be successful?
Well, and that's a good question because it varies with the client.
Hmm.
Some of them are very they're solo practitioners that do not socialize, but I encourage them to either we'll get a small a group call together of some of my clients that have similar interests. We do that. Also, if you're Keller Williams, I encourage you to go to Mega Camp. I encourage you to go to Family Reunion, Coldwell Bankers, all of the,
If you're Keller Williams, I
the
encourage you to call me and we'll talk about DXP. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
yeah, that's right.
As a former Keller Williams, I can say
Yeah,
that.
well, yeah, I'm a former Keller Williams also.
Yeah, I'm a reformed red punch drinker myself. So.
Yeah, I understand.
So again, so you need to find the appropriate place for people to connect in,
Yes.
and it may or may
Yeah,
not be within your coaching system. That's another thing.
exactly. Yeah.
Once you make it about your coaching system, like I was with Mike Ferry for a long time, but it was all about the Mike Ferry system. You don't go to his events, you're kind of on the outside. He used to have a lot of events you could pick from. Now there's really just a couple. It's hard to fit in. And I think it's nice to go to some, but there's also other events that you can go to and connect to and meet people. So
Absolutely.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's so many of my clients have got extracurricular activities where they're heavily involved with other realtors as well, not necessarily a formal group, but maybe they're doing pickleball together and things like that. But what I'm finding is they are expanding their vision once they get into coaching. Say, oh, this, I can do this, I can do that. I have suggested Toastmasters to people when we've done some role play. You really need to learn how to do this. Let's get you to Toastmasters. There are a number of them in your town. You can pick whatever. I can refer you to somebody, those types of things. And as far as the events, oh yes, there's a ton of events out there all the time. Some both from your board, your national board, NAR, Inman. There's a number of things going on, a number of conventions that you can always go to, plug in some fashion for additional information. And so many of them are with medium-sized brokerages, not necessarily a franchise, where those brokerages will sometimes do something together as a small boutique brokerage.
Right.
I'm seeing that in some of the areas as well.
One thing I learned when I left the Mike Ferry system was there's a much bigger world outside the Mike Ferry system than there is inside. And that's true for Tom Ferry's system as well. Nothing wrong with either one of them, but if you're just learning that material, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity in the world. And
oh my gosh,
business and support a cross-pollinate.
Yeah, because there's so much information that's out there that doesn't trickle down. And it's just, especially with the lawsuits that are going on over commission and all that kind of stuff. Well, leave that to the attorneys, but be aware of it. Things like that.
One of the areas I find touchy is the relationship between a coach and the broker. I'm sorry, the coach and the client and their brokerage. In that, boy, this is gonna be controversial. I'm going to say it. I think many of the brokers run their business like the agents are employees. And many agents, by habit, act like employees rather than business people building a business. And the broker over years will tell you, you can't do this, you can't do that, and they'll create limitations. I know where I was, we weren't allowed to do commercial without referring it to the one agent in the office that was on a tremendous split with the owner. We weren't allowed to do land. And as soon as I left, my business exploded because I did other things that other people were doing. Maybe that's not right for everybody. It was right for me because the broker was running the business for the business, not for me. How do you coach or do you counsel agents when they have those questions? Am I with the right brokerage, or what's holding me back? They can't see it, and then you help them explore other opportunities.
Yes, and that happens. One of the things I do not do is I should say it that I do is I do not encourage them to switch brokerages without a valid reason. Just because you got upset with your broker this morning does not mean you should leave and go to ABC Realty. There are so many things that you need to be looking at. One of them, of course, as I say to them, make a pro and con list. Everything. Interview. Look at the numbers. What is the reason that you are using today to change brokerages?
Yeah.
Lack of training. All right. Have you spoken to your broker? Because like I say, I'm not going to tell somebody to leave unless there's a valid reason.
Right.
And if they're needing training, does your broker provide that? If not, and you're needing it, can you get it at another brokerage or not? And the ones you're talking to, especially like the 3 or 4 big box ones, always have training of some sort.
Right.
So maybe that's where they need to go for the time being. Their split's going to be a little different, but in the long run, they're going to learn, and it will be much better for them overall. And that is how I approach it, because it's very, very important on how and why an agent leaves a brokerage. Not just because, oh, well, my friend went over there. That's not a good reason.
Yeah.
And getting agents to understand you are not an employee. Your broker is not your boss.
Right.
My agents, and I have a brokerage, my agents call me boss lady. They have been with me for over 15 years, and I am still boss lady.
Hmm.
But don't ask me why. But they also know that I treat them as an individual contractor,
Mm.
and they can do what they want within the scope of legality and what I require as a brokerage. And it works out fine.
Nice.
And that's important.
I met you through Debbie Morrow's real estate agent referral program. Tell me about your
Mhm.
experience in that program, how you work there, or what you see agents benefiting from that program.
Last week when we met was my first call with Debbie.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I will be back on again.
Got it. Okay, good. Well, it's a huge group, over 200,000
Yes.
agents, and I'm still myself trying to find out. Because I know Debbie very well. I knew her before she really built this thing out as big as it was. I'm trying to figure out how can I best play in that playground, because it's a huge game. I'm just not sure what the opportunity is for me and how I can contribute.
And that's the same thing with me too. I'm trying to figure out how to fit into that group.
Got it.
And yes, last week was the first time that I was on it, and some of that applies to me and some of it doesn't, of course, and that's going to be the same with anything like that. But I'm looking forward to getting more information from the group, and then also seeing how I can fit in and be a beneficial participant.
Well, great. Well, Mitzi, I'm going to put your contact information in the description below, your phone and email. So I know the best way to see to consider whether you're the right fit to coach a real estate agent is to give you a phone call or email you, and you have an intake process and take it from there. And then, do you coach just real estate agents, or do you also coach business people or mortgage lenders? What's your clientele look like?
I'm a business coach, which fits a whole gamut of things.
Mhm.
I'm also life certified, but I'm careful on where I go with that one.
Okay.
I do work with businesses. I have a client in Santa Fe that is on retainer with me.
Nice.
And as he has projects come up, I drive 45 minutes to Santa Fe. We have lunch, we go over it. I may spend the whole day with him. But and so that's how I handle that situation. So every client is a little different. And
Nice.
I work to make it fit with them.
Well, again, I think that's the advantage of being independent versus being one of the big systems. I know I looked at when I left the brokerage I was a general manager for, after having coached a lot of the top agents. I looked at coaching systems. I looked at Tom's and Mike's and a couple others, and I just found they were just too restricting to be
Yes.
effective, let alone for me personally. So I know they've had success for a lot of people, and I
Mhm.
wish them well with that. But for me, it wasn't a fit. And I really appreciate your customized approach to this. So anybody who's interested, I saw Mitzi on the call with Debbie Morrow's group and had a chance to meet with her. And I think for those real estate agents looking for a real estate coach to go to the next level, or if you're at a level and you want to maintain that, Mitzi would be a great person to talk to. Call her or email her, and love to hear about how that works out for you. Mitzi, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Appreciate the call.